Hi, everybody. How do we
Hi,
sound
guys.
this time? Round two. Round two, everyone.
Improvise, adapt, and overcome.
Okay, it looks better. I'm watching it over there, and it looks better.
It's sounding better on my end.
Hey,
I've been
everybody
putting on my
said
phone.
sounds good now.
Yeah.
All right, awesome.
Okay.
Much better.
Oh, geez. Thank you, YouTube overlords.
I'm gonna blame. Hey, who set up
I
the
knew
show
I
anyway?
prayed to the right gods. I knew it.
I
Who
was,
set
I,
the
you know, I
show?
was like, oh no, I have problems all the time, so I wouldn't be surprised if it was me messing up.
Yeah.
But when we were
Well-
all doing it, I'm like, oh.
Well, who
Yeah.
was set up? Who set up the show? The
I did.
original.
I did.
You did? Okay, so we're gonna blame it on Paul then.
I
Okay.
Yeah,
did.
we'll blame it on Paul.
Yeah.
I did it.
It's
Yeah, we're
Paul.
pretty well sure it's a YouTube thing. It was a YouTube thing that just glitched. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah, it happens. Not everything is fail safe, I guess.
All right. I guess because of our delay, I think we should go right into the topic, guys, tonight.
Yes, go
this
right
one's
ahead.
a doozy. This one's a doozy. Okay.
Doozy.
This one's a doozy of a doozy.
Doozy.
Okay. So, the topic of tonight is going to be the Beast of Gevaudan. A couple years ago on Texas and Rob's, when they had a show together with Jason, I did a show with them, and I think it did pretty well. There are some interesting questions and interesting points of discussion, but the reason why I wanted to bring it up tonight is because, in my opinion, here's a question that a lot of times we kind of lose sight of when we're in these cryptid paranormal shows and topics and discussions is what is the most important cryptid whatever story there is, right?
Yeah.
And in my opinion, this particular topic tonight is the most in terms of its impact on world history and just history and just on humanity as a whole. I think the Beast of Gevaudan might be the most important cryptid story there is. More important than the Beast of Bray Road, more important than the Patterson Gimlin film, whatever it may be. I think this one, for a number of reasons, is the most important story that very few people nowadays in the cryptid world are even talking about or mentioning, which I think is a real shame because I think this one deserves a lot of attention and a lot of discussion. And a lot of people who claim to be hardcore Bigfoot dogman people barely even know about this story. And that's just weird to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, imagine if there was a whole community of cinema lovers, right? But then none of them knew what The Godfather was or what Citizen Kane was. You'd be like, what is this community? What are you guys about? What's going on here, right? It's kind of like that. And that's the real point of the discussion I wanted to focus on is just how much of an impact this story had. For those of you who don't know, the story I'm introducing tonight is, the Beast of Gevaudan. So the way I like to introduce this story is like this, okay? Nowadays, as everyone is aware, we live in a very, I guess, tumultuous time in our country's current events and politics and history, right?
Mm-hmm.
We just had the election, there's a lot of strong emotions, right?
Right.
Imagine if with everything going on right now, all of a sudden, like Bigfoot or Dogman just burst into a town, into let's say a Walmart or something, and just started going on a slaughter spree, just like tearing people up, right?
Right.
Imagine.
All right,
Imagine
hold
if
on,
that happened.
hold on.
Yeah.
Hold the phone, guys. Hold the phone. Much better. We're doing okay. Okay. I just want y'all to know I made a couple of phone calls, got in my prayer closet. We had some 3-letter agencies working against us, man, and because we're getting too close to the truth. We had old Stitch working against us. I threw up some prayers and hey, we're good to go. So I just want to let y'all know, y'all keep doing what you're doing. I'm proud of you. Warriors, guys, we stick together, like family. Hey, y'all keep the truth rolling, man. I'm proud of you.
He sacrificed
you,
to the
Jack.
right gods.
Thank you. Tex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Because we all
Right,
know
yeah.
anytime a broadcast goes wrong, it's either a 3-letter agency or it's old Stitch himself trying to damper what you're putting out there. So
Yeah, because it was kind of
Yeah.
odd because we were checking out other shows and everyone is doing fine with whatever
Mhm.
platform they're using to get to YouTube. Everybody was doing fine except for
Mhm.
us.
For this one.
we were spiritually attacked. That's what it is. We were spiritually, digitally attacked.
There you go.
What it is.
By the YouTube gremlins.
Yeah. I believe it.
Yeah.
I believe it.
Hey, it wouldn't be the first time it's happened to any of us. I mean,
No.
I've had to restart shows before. I'm sure you guys have.
Our rival
yeah.
channels, are making it hard on us. So they're starting a war with us.
Yeah.
Well, it's okay. It's all right because you know what? We will prevail. So, well, Texas,
We
nice to
will.
have you. Going to stay with us?
Well, I didn't want to screw up your whole show.
Oh,
Well, just
Too late.
hang tight because we're listening to Donnie. Donnie's going
Okay.
to give us the.
actually, I think Tex, you were there. I think you were there that day. No, I think that was it was me, Rob, and Jason that day. I can't remember. I
The
think
beast of
the Beast of
I was there.
Gevaudan. Oh yeah, you
I
okay?
was
Yeah,
there.
Tex was there, so he's already familiar with this topic because he and I we did a show together with Rob and Jason on this one. But okay,
Thank you, T-Bone.
Thank you, P-Bone.
Thank you, T-Bone.
imagine if Dogman burst into like a Walmart in the middle of the day and just started wrecking people right in front of everyone in public, and all of a sudden it's undeniable at this point. The president does a press conference on live national TV and announces to the country, ladies and gentlemen of America, cryptids are real. Dogman is real. It just slaughtered like dozens of people. Everyone's aware of it. And do not be alarmed because now we are going to send in the military. And then right after
Yeah.
that, the entire U.S. military goes scouring all the national forests looking for Bigfoot and Dogman. And the whole
That's essentially what
country,
happened.
the whole country flips out. Okay. I
To
mean,
the-
if
to
you
the
think,
extent-
yeah.
No, I'm sorry, Donnie. Go ahead. You got me excited about the subject.
Oh, no. Go ahead, Tex. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that they did that, and I mean this is not make up. This is not make believe. This is not hocus pocus. This is not whatever. This conspiracy. This actually happened to this extent. What Donnie's talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
And it went so far as that they drove wolves to extinction doing this.
Yep. They brought in hunters from all over Europe.
Yep.
Like they all showed up. They had the military go after it. This was world news. People in other countries were reporting about this in their media at the time. You know, this is 1764 to 1767. Okay. You know, people often wonder, like, what would happen with disclosure? What would happen if something like a Bigfoot or Dogman goes mainstream, right? Well, with the Beast of Gevaudan, it did go mainstream. Like,
Yes, it did.
it literally did. To the point where no one was questioning it. No, there were no skeptics, like, doubting its existence. This thing was written about in mainstream history books. It was just accepted as fact, right? There were no naysayers with this story, and it drove an entire generation of people to paranoia. And it was, you know, okay, so a little backstory. I don't know how the history is kind of important, okay, because a year prior to this, so let me just show you on the map. This is a map of France. That red region right there, that's the Gevaudan region. It's a rural area. It's kind of like the France's version of the sticks, okay? Like a real rural backwards kind of hillbilly, like the French version of the hillbillies. You know, like I don't know what's a good hillbilly spot, guys.
The Ozarks.
The Ozarks.
Yes. Yes,
I don't
absolutely.
know what's a good hillbilly state. What's
West Virginia.
West Virginia
Southwestern Missouri.
or like Arkansas or
Tennessee, we're all in
like
there.
I don't know. Tennessee's
We're
kind
all-
of nice though.
yeah, we're
People
all
would
wrapped
live
up in there.
Tennessee.
And I hate to
Anywhere
tell
in
you,
the
Mr.
South.
Maryland,
We want
go up past
hillbillies
Africa.
and rednecks.
Stuff.
Yeah. This is like their version of that. And this whole place is just rural. It's poor. It's mostly like just peasants and villagers. Landscape wise, it's rough. It's a lot of like craggy rocks and a lot of like swamps and bogs. It's not a pleasant landscape to go through. And that's going to play a big part into the story of the Beast of Gevaudan. So in 1763, France just got mollywopped. They got their butts kicked in what was, to that point, the biggest war in France's history, known as the 7 Years' War, which I like to call World War Zero. Okay, because this was a war that it was fought in America. People know it as the French and Indian War. What the French and Indian War was essentially was just the American theater of the even bigger war, which was the 7 Years' War, which was basically Britain and all their allies with Prussia and everyone were going up against another coalition of nations, which was essentially France and Austria. But it was basically like Britain and all their allies versus France and all their allies, and it was fighting along all of like a whole bunch of their regions. There was fighting going on off the west coast of Africa, in the Caribbean, definitely America, all over Europe, in Asia, and like places like India. And this was a multiple continent, multiple hemisphere spanning war. That's why I like to personally call it World War Zero. And at the end of it, at the end of the 7 Years' War, France gets their butt kicked. Not only do they get their butts kicked, but they go from being the major player on the world stage to like losing a whole bunch of their colonies, losing a whole bunch of their territory. This is a time when just a year prior, people in France went from being like the major economic superpower to all of a sudden now everyone's in poverty. There's no more resources. And everyone's just like, what the hell is going on with our country? And then a year later, in 1764, the Beast of Gevaudan hits in that region. And for about a 3-year period, this thing is going on a killing spree to the point where now the estimates of the body count ranges greatly. The most conservative estimates I found were about 80 confirmed kills. But some estimates go as high as like 400. For about a 3-year period, they said they were finding like a body every week. Someone, and a lot of times, very much like the Lions of Tsavo, these people were being attacked, killed, and just, it wasn't even really doing it for food. It seemed like it was doing it for either sport or fun. There were multiple eyewitnesses because this thing attacked in broad daylight.
Yes.
It had no fear of humans. It took on the army. Like there was on one account where the army actually cornered it. And all these soldiers with their musket, their muzzle loader rifles, they just start unloading in this thing. This thing gets hit, falls, drops, gets up, walks away. And there were like dozens of soldiers who went through this, who witnessed it. This thing attacked groups. It seemed to particularly favor women and children.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But this thing had zero fear of humans. It was just brazen. Broad daylight, like a lot of people saw it. Mm-hmm. We had a lot of descriptions of it. And it was to the point where this entire region of France and Gevaudan was just locked down in fear. Like you had entire villages and towns. Yeah.
I find it odd that this thing was cornered by at least a squad of soldiers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. I'm not going to say a full platoon. It's probably a squad, probably a 5-man squad. and they hit it, downed it, and it got back up, and it was gone
multiple times.
But one man is supposed to have killed this thing with one shot.
Supposedly, yeah.
Well,
So-
I kind of heard the story, but the story that I had heard is that the thing that he thought he shot, he did hit it. It did go down, but it did get back up. But he didn't have time to reload as this thing was coming, so another officer shot it.
The initial shot, he shot him in the eye.
Right.
And he went down, got back up, charged again, and then the other one, like you said.
Yeah, then the other one shot him, and then he still took the fame for killing it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
And of course you also hear the the rumors of, oh well, he used a silver bullet, that type of thing. They issued the Army silver bullets. There's all those accounts out there.
Yeah, it was
actually a fascinating case, and it's been. What's odd is, like I said earlier, they literally hunted the wolves to extinction in that part of the country.
There were a lot of wolves that got killed because of this thing.
Yeah,
a lot.
And if you look at when the attack stopped and when the wolves went extinct, it tracks. Well, that makes sense. Either, it. But I don't know. To me, I'm on the fence. I don't know if it was an actual werewolf or a dog man or whatever you want to call it.
Well, after they killed that first one and had it stuffed and put it in the royal court, didn't it stop for a little bit? And then
it stopped for a little bit.
Again?
Okay, so what happened was, I wish I had brought that picture, the one where it was at the court. They brought it to the court. It stopped for a bit, and then when the killing started resuming, people in the upper echelons of French society, like Louis XV and his court, they were basically like, "Nah, that's fake news.
Right?
It's not really happening. It's fake news. No, we killed it already."
Right, but it's not only that, Donnie. The people that they had seen it with their own eyes had said, "No, that's not it. That's not
because
what
the description was different." Yeah,
that's not what we saw. But they said, "Well, yeah, it was," and so everybody just went, "Okay, well, and just kind of backed off it."
Now here's a photo. Here's some popular artist renditions of it. This is so it was described as having like brownish reddish hair, about the size of a pony apparently, or a donkey, like big for a canine animal. In some accounts they say it had like a black stripe down its back, more akin to like a hyena really than a wolf. It had a very broad, longer tail than was usual. And in this photo right here, this woman that's piercing its chest, that's Marie-Jeanne Vallée. So she was a woman in Gevaudan who was walking one day with a bunch of other women I think she was like a servant in the church. And she is known as, at this point, everyone was so freaking terrified of this thing in Gevaudan that people would not leave their houses unarmed. Everyone had to carry at least like an iron-tipped spear or a musket, or like a musket with a bayonet, right? Like everyone was armed at all times. It was that bad. And one day, apparently, this thing attacked. Well, that's what one rendition of what it looked like. But this thing attacked this woman, Marie-Jeanne Vallée. She wound up surviving it and fighting it off by piercing it in the chest with an iron-tipped spear, and it ran off. And because of that, she was lauded as this hero figure. Because it's French society; they're not used to like stories of like women, like badass women, like fighting things, right?
Right. They're not going to tell you all about that.
Yeah, and so she was kind of seen as like the Joan of Arc of that time. Yeah.
Right.
Because this is like the 1760s. She became such a like renowned figure because of her fighting off the beast of Gevaudan. They've actually made a statue in her honor over there.
Well, that's pretty
Now,
cool.
if you'll look at the rendition of this creature right here and the size of it,
Yeah.
I got a sneaky suspicion we're dealing with dire wolves.
Possibly.
Because if you think, if it's a dire wolf, it could possibly breed with regular wolves. Okay, it's going to lead. It's going to lead the packs. I mean, it's going to be the alpha. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
You know, and if there was only, and it would make sense that there's only a couple of them. You know,
Right.
and the weapons of that time was something that massive. It's very possible, and they were inaccurate as hell, guys. Let's just be honest here.
Inaccurate as hell, but you do not want to get hit by one of them musket balls because they leave a pretty big hole.
Right.
Yeah, 50 caliber, most of them. Randy, you're being awful quiet down there.
I am reading and thinking.
He's reading and thinking. Well, you know, the only thing that throws me off about the whole description of this is that it seems to have several different animals that it could have been. And the tassel type tail is what's throwing me off the most. Because a dire wolf doesn't have that. A regular wolf doesn't have that. But they said they had I don't know, I wouldn't call it a sanctuary, but kind of like a zoo type thing not far from there. And it could have been something that it had escaped from there. And a lion
has that
actually fits the description, including the tassel tail.
Now, could a lion have mated with a dire wolf?
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
Dogs and cats can't breed together, but
no.
They live together, but they don't breed together.
But I mean, also, it has it reminds me a little bit of a hyena also. I don't know where they would have come from there, but
a lot of descriptions of the stripes that they talk about makes me think more like a hyena.
It does me too.
Maybe. What about the Transylvanian tiger? I mean the
Tasmanian tiger.
Tasmanian tiger.
Looking at Brandi, it's like, hey, Brandi, sounds like a thylacine, don't it?
Thylacine, yeah, that's what I mean. It does sound like that, but a thylacine is not that large. I mean, they're not that huge. I mean, because that would make sense. I mean, if that's what they were talking about, because that does resemble quite a bit.
Guys. Hold on.
Guess what? Time out.
I'm gonna play it.
You know, Donny Cho, meme of the week.
Okay, guys. Real quick before we resume talking about the beast of Gevaudan, I just wanted to share this meme right here. Guys, I think I may have discovered the true origin of Bigfoot. It's a question that comes up, right? Where does Bigfoot come from? Here it is, folks. Bigfoot's origin has finally been revealed. Mystery solved, baby. Charlton Heston. Damn you, Charlton Heston, for introducing this menace into our national forests. He's a traitor to humanity.
Or better yet, how about Zero?
Now, wait a minute. Now, since we got this picture up here, let's talk about this.
Okay.
This was in 1960, 7 or 8?
This was the original one or the sequel? I can't remember.
This is the original.
It's like the original.
Yeah.
That right there is the best that makeup and costume that Hollywood could possibly put out. Okay?
Oh man, that blew my mind when I first saw it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it is nowhere comparable to the Patterson Gimlin film.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah, we've talked about that quite a bit.
So? Yeah. No. I don't know.
They had to wear, the reason they wore all those clothes is because they couldn't make the costumes good enough to resemble to mimic, the bodies without making it look like a cheap, just a gorilla suit you see on Abbott and Costello.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it would not move with the muscles and they couldn't recreate the bulk and everything else. Not to mention the proportions.
Cool. Man. Damn dirty ape. I remember that line.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Oh, anyway, going back to the Beast of Gevaudan, there is one story that may lend credence to the idea that it may actually have been at least somewhat related to Dogman itself, because in most of these accounts and descriptions, it's quadrupedal, right? It's on fours.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most famous encounters, well, the most famous encounter stories, other than Marie-Jeanne Vallée, was this story. I don't remember the kids' names. They actually have them recorded. But what wound up happening was a bunch of kids were out in the forest. I don't remember what they were like picking something. They were like gathering because there were children of farmers and they were out in the woods gathering like fruits and nuts or whatever. And they were out in a group. And again, all the kids in this region by this point were armed. They were carrying spears. They were carrying knives, right? And the Beast of Gevaudan wound up attacking this group of kids. Now, in this group, they were mixed ages, right? And there was the oldest boy who was like 12, 13. And then the next oldest was like this girl who was 11. And they all went down. They're not like siblings. They were all just kids from the same village. And the youngest kid was like 6 years old, right? And the funny thing about this story is that even though all the kids were armed, even the youngest one, the Beast of Gevaudan was actively trying to go after the youngest kid, to the point where the other kids were kind of like standing in between the beast and the little one with their spears out, trying to defend the kid. Beast was like trying to, not attacking the older kids. It was trying to like get around at the younger kid, to the point where in this photo or in this picture, do you see that little kid like grabbing at his cheek? In the account, the Beast of Gevaudan had actually chomped off a bit of that little kid's cheek, right? And tried to subdue him and take him down. Now, the interesting detail about this particular story was that, according to the kids, the Beast had actually grabbed the kid, like by his like arm. I mean, if it had regular paws, it wouldn't be able to do that, but like as if it had like opposable digits. They said it literally grabbed the kid and was trying to hold him down as if it had hands. Because we know that Dogman, even though it's bipedal, walks on all fours at times, right? A regular wolf, a regular dire wolf or a lion or whatever wouldn't be able to actually grab something because it doesn't have thumbs, it has paws. But according to these kids' accounts, this kid was being grabbed by the beast as if it had hands. Now, what happened was all these kids, when this thing was actually subduing the little one, all the kids, they all ganged up on it. They were all stabbing at it. It ran off, and they were like kind of chasing after it. The beast actually got caught in the bog, like in the mud, and then the kids kind of descended upon it, and they were all stabbing at it. And according to the kids' accounts, none of their spears could pierce its skin. Eventually, an armed hunter, adult hunter, came along. I think he fired off one shot, and then the beast got out and ran off. Those kids were all lauded as heroes. The oldest one of the group actually was awarded by King Louis XV himself, and a lot of those kids were actually like rewarded and given like educations and sent to really good schools and wound up living a happily ever after, and were regarded by the country as heroes because of this event.
I don't know. I mean, so from what I understand, the favorite way for one of these things to take a person down is either by the throat or removing the head. I mean,
this thing was known. It was known to tear people's heads off. Like they were finding decapitated corpses like on a weekly basis. Right.
And because they don't have social media or telephones at the time, the neighbor, which is probably a couple miles away or whatever, wouldn't have known.
Right.
that the other farm had been attacked, or the children or wife or whomever had been attacked, so they wouldn't know.
Mhm.
Ugh. But do you think that if this was a form of dogman, do you think that it would only attack the head or the neck? Or do you think it would be like an
If it
all
was
over
just
thing?
killing people for fun, this thing was not. It was killing beyond the means of like just food, right? It was
Right,
beyond all that. It was just killing, as if it
right.
was like
That's
sport
from
or
that's from a museum.
Yeah.
yeah.
In fact, it's a museum of the beast of Gevaudan. That's all that museum is about, evidently.
Oh, really? Where is it?
Hang on a second. Sausages, France.
Okay.
There are several. It looks like wax figures and stuff that they recreated, and
But if that's like a normal sized person that they have recreated there, that beast doesn't look very big, does it?
No, but that's
No.
what the museum is portraying. Actually, by most accounts, they said it's the size of a donkey or a mule or a pony.
Now, something like that
I will say this
that we
too.
have on the screen there doesn't look like anything that would lop a head off.
Right,
Right.
But that one's not in particular is not looking that big.
right. Okay, but when we looked at the statue, the size scale to the woman was very,
This one,
fat.
yeah, this one would be more accurate. Like that's more closer to the size of like a donkey.
Yes.
It's about the
Although,
size of a tiger, lion, or a dire wolf.
yeah,
Did you say it's not, Tex?
oh no, it is. It would be.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
Whoop.
I mean, the coloration was off too because they said it was like reddish brown.
Reddish brown.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They said its face was like a little flatter. Like it didn't have quite the long muzzle. Like it looked more akin to like, kind of like similar to like more akin to like a pit bull. You know how wolves have like longer muzzles?
Yes.
They're more narrow,
Yes.
longer. Yeah, this one was more like a Rottweiler, like its head. It was a big, broad head. A lot of these depictions, they have it look more narrow, but the descriptions themselves, like this is a very narrow. This looks almost like coyote-like, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this didn't fit any description of any wolf I know in that area.
I don't know.
The thing that bothers me about this time period is you're going on what this person said way over here a week or so ago, and it travels down to this person over here.
Mhm.
That, I mean, could that be why they're getting different descriptions?
There's,
this animal?
I'm willing to bet there were definitely elements of that, especially with all the
Yeah.
confusion when they first killed the wolves and people were bringing it to Louis XV's court,
Mhm.
you know,
'Cause
presenting it, and
I
there
mean,
was
like,
all that discrepancy.
yeah.
But by the time, because here's the thing, by the time the first hunters came along and they brought their first wolves, there were so many people in Gevaudan who were just like, that ain't it. Because so many people had seen it by then. Remember, this thing was attacking groups in broad daylight. There were
Right.
so many witnesses. This isn't like Bigfoot or Dogman where you might have like a random guy have an encounter, right? And then it's up to other people to believe him. Imagine if like I said in the very beginning of the show, imagine if Bigfoot just barged into like a crowded Walmart and just started killing people.
Right. Well, I mean, after
Yeah, that looks more like it. Except the snout is still kind of narrow. Imagine that, but with like a Rottweiler head.
But it still doesn't look like the size that's depicted. This is the taxidermist depiction of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that looks nothing like what that statue is.
No.
Even with the size.
The only thing that
And that-
resembles what they were talking about is the tail.
And the
And
jaw
it still
structure on
doesn't
that.
resemble. It still doesn't resemble because they were talking about a tassel
Yeah.
like tail. So it would mean
Yeah.
that it's smooth all the way to the end.
which is more feline.
Yes.
Right.
And even that the muscles in the jaw and the jaw structure, that doesn't look like anything that would chop a head off.
Yeah, I mean, just from what I've been hearing and I've been reading a little bit, obviously on the side of here as well too. At the same time, and you know, I see where you're coming from with the hyena thing, but we're still talking because the hyena mouth can open wide enough to could take a head off if it wanted to. But you're talking the way I'm hearing the description from Donnie and the way I'm reading it over here. This really fits more along the lines of a large cat than it does anything else. It really does.
It really
Right,
does.
there's theories,
With the broad head, the shorter muzzle, you know, the tassel tail, the sheer size of it. That's what it sounds like to me.
Right. And you know, some of its behavior, it had like it didn't behave like a typical wolf, because wolves still show fear, especially when there's like armed soldiers. This thing had no fear.
No, and you know, you were talking about how it just attacked to attack. Well, out of 113 deaths that I'm reading about right here, 49 injuries, 98 of the victims actually that were killed of those 113 were partially eaten.
Right.
So that lends it right then to make, okay, this thing was feeding in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So,
in some accounts, it would just eat like a certain, go for like a certain organ.
Yeah.
Yes,
or
like
just
it would
the
be
head.
particular organs or the neck or the head. I mean, it was just particular organs. It wouldn't take like legs or feet or just particular things, which is strange.
Yeah.
Kimber's asking if it was rabid. I don't think this is conducive to how a rabid animal would behave, because like with this story with the kids, I mean, this thing was actively targeting one kid in the group.
The weakest.
That's not how
one.
that's not how a rabid animal. They don't behave like that.
And
no.
And I don't know back then if they could have done this, and I don't know where I read this, but I read something about rabies, and none of the victims tested positive for rabies. I don't know if they could do that back then. I don't know where I read that.
And also, I mean, if it was rabies, it wouldn't have lasted that long. This went on from between 1764 to 1768 for a good 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
Where, if it was rabid, it wouldn't have lasted that long.
No, it would have died long before that.
Yeah.
And you know, maybe you're not talking about one single animal too.
Yeah.
There were some accounts where they spotted a pair of them.
Yeah.
Some accounts. Yeah.
I think there was more than just even a couple. I think there was a pack of something out there running around.
Now, harking back to the show that you and I did, Tex, when we were discussing the beast originally. You know, Jason pointed out that the timing is really interesting, right? Because in 1763, the 7 Years' War ends. France has been humbled, right? So politically, economically, they're in a very vulnerable spot. This beast goes on this killing spree for the next 4 years. So not only are the people dealing with the loss of their economy and their prestige in the world stage, and a hit to their national pride, right? Now they're dealing with this monster that's going on a killing spree, and everyone's kind of looking at the king like, hey man, why can't you handle this? So it's making the king look bad. That's why he sends in the army, because it's egg on his face, right? In the British media, in their newspapers and in their news stories, they're actively making fun of France because they can't handle this.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, this is around the time when newspapers were starting to get invented. So this is like the first like mass media and print is coming out, and people are writing about this. People are talking about this like all over Europe and even in America. Like people like George Washington probably knew about this thing, and we're actively like talking about it. Right, this was like the talk of everyone, right? So it goes from losing the 7 Years' War to now this killing spree, and then 25 years later, what happens? The French Revolution, where basically people were fed up with their king. They were fed up with the institution. They were fed up with the church, because you have to keep in mind, up until this point, the church was like the main governing body for the most of the common people's lives, right? People were gathered up in these churches praying for God to do something about the Beast of Gevaudan. 25 years later, those same people who were once kids living through that time are now adults, and they decide, hey, we have no more faith in our institutions. We have no more faith in our religions. Overthrow the whole thing. And that's when Europe really, that's when you really start to see Europe go from being like predominantly Christian to being mostly, mostly not, right?
Right.
Well, mostly secular. And, Jason was thinking, what if the Beast of Gevaudan had something to do with that? I'm not saying it was the sole cause of all that, but it definitely probably pushed it in that direction.
I mean, it could have been something where these kids are being attacked, like you said, and what is this government doing to protect us?
Right.
They kill the wrong thing.
Well, I mean, they sent in the army, and the army couldn't even.
Yeah.
They couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just makes me wonder, though. I mean, because we always have our theories, and there are very strong conspiracies out there that our government unleashes things on its people. I mean, do you think that maybe that the king maybe have unleashed something on that type of community, because there wasn't very many out there, just to start something to make his country look better, or start something going as to make news about their country.
It wasn't a good look for King Louis.
And
it was not a good look for him.
Backfired big time on him.
Yeah. It was a major source of embarrassment, especially since they were so public about it, like when they finally were like, "Oh, we finally caught him," and then it turns out they didn't. That was especially embarrassing for the kingdom.
Yeah, because I think they said, "Oh yes, we did," and then that was it.
Yeah.
Oh yes, we did, and then that was it. So everybody else back in that area was like, "No, it's still here. We still see it." So that's when the farmer did his thing out there. But
yeah,
I'm wondering if they had done something like that, just unleash something like that in that small area.
I'm just wondering why more people don't ask that question, because I feel like Jason was the first one to bring up that question, where it was like, what if the Beast of Gevaudan actually did have something to do with the French Revolution? Because that was a major turning point in human history. And a lot of those people who participated in that revolution were kids when the Beast of Gevaudan was going around doing its thing.
Exactly. Okay. What are we looking at here?
That is evidently that's a flyer or a newspaper or something from the time period.
Right.
I can't read French, so I don't know what it's saying.
So that's kind of like their wanted poster, I think.
Yeah.
Where did I see that?
But do you see the tail again? This is where.
Yeah, but see how short it is?
Maybe it's just to get it all on the paper.
I think that's more of a limitation of their art style.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, quite frankly, if I looked at that, I'd be thinking I'm looking for a gargoyle.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The way they've got
French,
the way they've got the paws, I mean, the front legs are shorter than the back legs, and
They almost look like talons, almost.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
Subjective. It's really subjective, just like Chris said.
But I will say this. Look at the head, okay? Look at the head, and then look at the head on that one.
Yeah.
And the body structure and everything. I mean, to me, that's close.
But that
I
one
would
there,
say that.
good. That one there doesn't have the talon-like feet.
Yeah, but that's the only thing.
Yeah.
I'm still leaning towards a dire.
I'm not too sure on what it is exactly. I mean, because like I said, it sounds like a whole bunch of animals wrapped up into one.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's something that we do know as an animal, or maybe this is just something all on its own. But I still don't think there was just one. I think there was many. Unless
I
they
think
had
there
some
was a
kind
few of them running around. I mean, obviously there was. I mean, if we go by the accounts of the official accounts, there was one killed and stuffed, and that it was still going on, and you know there was several encountered,
Mm-hmm,
by the kids, by the woman who stabbed it with a spear, the guy who
mm-hmm.
shot one, the one that they cornered, with a squad of soldiers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still not sold on it being a wolf, period.
The thing that gets me is, I mean, a single wolf, I don't think would be able to rip the head off of somebody.
I don't think this thing was a wolf, honestly.
No, I don't think a hyena would rip the head off somebody.
Well,
a lion,
a
maybe.
wolf or hyena, I don't know if they would be that brazen alone as a single animal. I don't know if I know they would attack like that in packs, but I don't know if they would be so brazen to attack a group of people. You know what I mean? It doesn't sound like their normal behavior, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it just depends, I guess, on how hungry they are and how particular this particular beast was on the items that it would take from the person. It was just particular organs of the neck or the head. It just wouldn't take the other organs. So it doesn't sound like he was exactly hungry.
Yeah.
It was almost like revenge, or it was just like
territorial.
Yeah, that too.
What the animal that I found in like prehistory that I feel like probably matches it the closest in terms of the description would be an animal known as the epicyon. That's an epicyon compared to an actual regular wolf. Imagine basically a Rottweiler that was 300 pounds. And it was known as the bone-crushing dog. It roamed the North America during the Pleistocene era, and it was a solitary animal. It was actually driven to extinction by wolves, not because they were like fiercer or anything, but because they hunted in packs. And
well, I mean,
yeah.
Okay, so if we're looking at the picture, if you'll bring that picture back up, if you look at it, the tail on it is darker at the end of it.
Yeah.
Could they have perceived that as a tassel?
Mm-hmm.
And plus it does have a shorter muzzle on it.
Yeah, it was known for having a shorter muzzle, and it was known as the bone crusher because they would eat everything.
Well, I mean, that's the closest thing that we've seen so far.
Yeah. If there's a European version of it, definitely.
I can't imagine an animal like that living all the way up to like 1760s, though. That's
It's been how long has it been extinct here?
Why not?
Pleistocene. So let me look it up.
Pleistocene? Oh, good Lord.
Yeah. couple million years, actually.
Yeah, at least, yeah.
Yeah. Like this thing was running around when Megalodon was around.
Oh, I
Yeah.
think that might have been too far back.
That depends on who
Yeah.
you talk to. I might still be around.
Smoky Mountain
Well, I mean,
Wanderer
you got-
wants to
you
know
got-
the timeline for this, the exact timeline.
The Beast of Gevaudan. So 1763 is when the 7 Years' War ends. 1764 the next year, from 1764 to about 1768, around 67, 68 is when the last sighting stops. Although I have been hearing rumors that sightings to this day are going on. And then the French Revolution happens, I believe, 1789.
Mhm.
Yeah, George Washington would have known about this thing. They were probably like literally, our founding fathers were probably like all aware of this because this was like world news.
Right. Right. Well, they got the news slower than snail mail, but
Yeah, but word gets around
boat mail. Yeah, boat mail.
because okay, here's the other thing you have to consider, right? The 7 Years' War. All right, everyone knows about the American Revolution, right? The founding of this nation. But right before the American Revolution, right before George Washington was a general, he was a colonel. And where did he get most of his combat experience? It was in this 7 Years' War, the French and Indian Wars, where he got his hands dirty. Apparently, during the French and Indian Wars, George Washington himself was probably responsible for at least 12 kills in battle, like with his hands, right? That all of that combat experience he had was in the war leading up to that ended like a year before the Peace of Gevaudan. Well, not really. The French and Indian War was kind of its own thing, right?
Still
But it was like the American theater of this greater war.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was at that time during that war, the Americans and the British were fighting shoulder to shoulder. Before the American Revolution, Americans and British, they were allies in war together.
Yeah.
We
were still colonies at that time. So
yeah. It wasn't until after the end of the 7 Years' War that's when tensions started. Well, there were always tensions leading up, but that's when America and Britain had their split.
yeah,
And that's what ultimately led to the American Revolution.
And you're right, though. George Washington, for his day, was, you might as well just call him, he's a badass. Is what he was.
Let's just say he got his hands dirty.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
He got his hands dirty.
Yeah, like really dirty. Like
So-
straight up, like bayoneting, like
The stuff.
hand to hand.
Yep.
Yeah,
like-
he was doing
like-
the stuff.
You fire off your one bullet, and now, I guess we knife fight now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So are you saying that perhaps it's a coincidence that this thing showed up, or do you think that it was like a planned thing? What do you think
I think
is?
the timing is real interesting. I think the timing is real interesting that it happens right in between the 7 Years' War ending and the French Revolution starting, like right in that little period where France is in this weird transitionary phase, and where the population is in this really vulnerable place, and then this beast just goes out and just starts basically
Right.
going Godzilla on the population.
Right. So I'm trying to figure out what you're saying. Do you think that somebody let these things loose, or do you think that it was just I don't know. What are you thinking that's happening here?
I've heard a number of different theories. Actually, Tex, after I did that show with you a couple years back with Rob and Jason, Jessica Jones actually invited me on her show to talk about the Beast of Gevaudan, and she did a remote viewing session. And I thought her theory was real interesting because according to her remote viewing, she said that she felt like there was like some kind of African dark magic involved. And I'm like, you know what? That kind of makes sense. Because before the 7 Years' War, France had a lot of territory over in Africa. A lot of territory and a lot of colonies. And they were bringing people over. And I'm wondering if someone with like there was a lot of dark magic being practiced by some of the population. I mean, that's where people talk about Haitian voodoo, but Haitian voodoo is really just an offshoot of the original OG African stuff. And if someone from there was brought over to France, maybe they had an axe to grind against the population.
Right.
I like that theory. I'm not saying I believe that theory, but I like that theory.
Well, I could see it because then they could take. So what we were looking. What was the name of the one that looks like it the most? The
Epicyon.
Okay, the Epicyon. Okay,
Most people just call it the bone crusher dogs.
Okay, the bone crusher dog. Okay, let's just go with that.
Like
So you bring people from Africa that do the dark magic, and they just kind of like say, well, this animal is big, it's a bone crusher, let's do some magic on that and make them kind of go crazy. Could that have happened?
No. Well, here's the thing. Bone crushers were native to North America, though.
Oh, okay.
JD Smooth is asking, didn't they think it was hyenas turned loose? The problem with that, though, is that hyenas, on average, tend to be smaller than some of those European wolves that were running around. Like European wolves, like timber wolves and everything, they on average get bigger.
Yeah,
hyenas don't get that huge.
I don't know. Maybe it's something they brought with them.
And also, contrary to popular belief, hyenas are actually not related to canids. They're actually more related to weasels. They're more closer related to cats.
Mm-hmm.
Which is very strange.
Yeah.
Well, they're very canidish.
Yeah, they just happen to look like dogs. It's, coevolution. You know how everything eventually winds up looking like crabs? Yeah.
Everything starts to look like crabs.
Everything eventually evolves into crabs.
That's right.
Yeah.
No, that's your. Never mind. I'll be quiet on that one.
Well, I that just makes me wonder. I'm trying to think of every angle of why a particular animal would go crazy, or animals go, vicious like that for only a certain amount of years and then just stop. Like, just stop.
And it was bulletproof. Don't forget that.
Right. Yeah. Well, the first one they shot it in its eye. Okay. It was shot through the eye and it still got back up.
Right.
Okay.
And you're not going to have any armor up there.
In any animal that I know, I don't think would have got back up and run and try to attack. I would think that they would try to run away because that is,
I mean, imagine if like Bigfoot and Dogman were just like, screw it. We're done just hiding in the woods and being all sneaky. And they just go out in public and they just stop caring. They just stop caring.
For no reason. Just because. Just no reason. Or like
Bigfoot just decides to stop going blurry in all his photos. He's like, I'm done being blurry. I want people to see me.
Yeah, I don't know, Randy. What do you think?
Well, I'm kind of at a loss with this because, like I said, the way the killings are done, it sounds like a cat. The descriptions are kind of canid, and I know like a couple of Smoky Mountain Wanderers, like maybe it's a dire wolf, much like Tex did. And yeah, I mean, dire wolves are much bigger than the normal wolf, but are they going to be the size of what they're talking about? That's the other thing.
A donkey. Yeah.
So, but you get a full grown lion, and a full grown lion is not much smaller than a donkey if you want to get right down to it.
Right.
So now, and that the ruling aristocracy of the time, they had exotic animals. They had stuff in that area that could have easily gotten out.
More or less a zoo. Yeah, absolutely.
So stuff could have got out, and I'm sitting there thinking, the more I think of the killings, just they're telltale cat killings is really what they are.
Mhm.
And I don't know if I can even see past that for any kind of a canid, because a canid wouldn't have killed like that. They'd have gone, like you said, as a pack. Even dire wolves, they're not solitary hunters. Now, if the
The Epicyon?
Bone Crusher boy, the girl,
Yeah.
that one, yeah, Epicyon. If that was still around at that time frame, which I'm not saying it is, because we don't even know for sure if it even lived on that continent or if there's any fossil record of it being on that continent.
Right.
So if that's the case, then we got to rule this one out, because there's nothing that says it's ever there. But it would have been the only one that wouldn't have hunted as a pack. And if a pack hunts, there's not going to be anything left for people to get remains out of. They're going to eat as much as they can get out of it.
Right.
Yeah, and they wouldn't care. Right.
Yeah. And
No.
a lion will eat, some soft tissues and kind of go away and then come back to it later, which would explain some of the partial eating.
Now, with the behavior, it is kind of conducive with what we know about the Lions of Tsavo. Because we know, I mean, Randy, we all know about the Lions of Tsavo accounts. They kind of do a similar thing.
I'm not familiar with that one, but I mean, I'm familiar with lions.
That's going to be a future topic. That's one of the topics I plan on talking about.
Maybe
but
you are too. The Lions of Tsavo.
those
are the two lions that they have in the Smithsonian.
Yeah, they kind of went on a similar killing spree.
I probably looked at it, but I don't know. I may not know the story.
You ever watch Ghost in the Darkness?
Yes, I've watched Ghost in the Dark.
That's based off the Lions of Tsavo accounts. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Okay.
Okay. So it was similar-ish to what the Lions of Tsavo were doing. But here's the thing: people back then, and they knew what lions looked like. And the coloration was. This thing was described by most accounts to be like a dark reddish to a brownish color. Lions aren't. That doesn't match the coloration of a lion. And they said it had a big black stripe down its back.
There's actually lions out there that have black stripes down their back. It's the way the hair lines up, and it makes it look like a black stripe.
But reddish brown?
Like but it's like a hackles on a dog,
Yeah. Yeah. If my dogs get upset, they have that line down their back. When they get
the old ridgeback thing going on.
Yeah.
But
very well be.
Now each lions have different colorations, obviously, like we're saying, but who's to say that brown that they're seeing there? Oh, well, that's reddish brown. Well, maybe it wasn't really reddish brown. Maybe the line was dirty, or it had some sort of mud on it that caused some sort of distortion when they saw it.
Or maybe it was reddish brown when you're looking at it this way with the sunlight coming from here, but if you're looking this way and the sunlight coming from there,
or maybe it was just like a bunch of dried blood because of all the killing it was doing.
What about a liger?
I don't think they were, because that's one that's created. I mean, that a liger's done by physically putting them together. As when I shouldn't say geneticists per se, but that's done in kind of like the way a mule's done. You know what I mean?
No.
So that's the way a liger's done. But don't get me wrong, liger's huge, but there's no lion going to mate with a tiger or vice versa. That's just not going to happen. They're going to kill each other first.
What about a short-faced cave bear?
Well, that'd be somewhere in the caves somewhere. So
yeah, I mean, this thing was probably Epicyon was probably running around with short-faced cave bears as well.
Yeah,
I mean, they were probably neighbors or something.
And competitors.
The other theory is the European version of a dogman on steroids.
I couldn't say no. I mean, there was something there that they can't explain, but they I don't know. They knew it when they saw it, and they
Right.
knew that the stuffed one that went to the king was not it.
Yeah. Which means they did not think it was a wolf in any way, shape, or form.
Well,
Right.
the first description of this thing was like a wolf, yet not a wolf.
Yeah.
So
That's-
now, if you're a layman out there in 1700s and 1760s in France, you may not know what a lion truly looks like being out in the sticks. You know what I mean?
Maybe, yeah, because Donnie did describe it as a very remote area, rural area. They may not have known what a lion was.
I'm not sure about that one. I think people would have known what lions look like because remember France was before the war. It was pretty much, other than the British Empire, the most powerful empire in the world, with colonies in just about every continent there is. I mean, I think people would have known what a lion would have looked like. Even those who never left the French countryside, I mean, they still would have.
I'd bet money, honestly, that the people who lived in the lower ends of London and stuff like that, and out in the countryside of England, same thing as the south of France. If they'd never even they'd never have a reason to even think about a lion, is what I'm saying. So why would they know what it looked like?
I mean, lions are still a big part of like European symbology. I mean, it's often depicted in so many different, like even from medieval times, it's depicted in so much artwork, and you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you know as well as I do, they don't look like that.
Right. Yeah, they're not very anatomically accurate. Yeah. Honestly, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't know if people would have known what they look like or not.
All right. Well, let's ask Paul.
Looking at all these animals that I've seen and reading this today and talking with you guys about it, I don't know. I mean, the only thing that makes sense to me would be some kind of lion that would be capable of doing stuff like this. But how would it get there, for one? I mean, unless it was it escaped from someplace,
right?
Judging by that, right? So yeah, what are the odds of multiple lions escaping? You know,
well, considering the time frame,
yeah,
and they didn't have metal fencing, very easily done.
Yeah,
you know.
But then again, if you're shooting a lion, depending on where, I would think it would go down.
You would think.
Yeah,
especially that brings us back to it's a cryptid.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not a naturally occurring biological entity. This is definitely something else.
It's very mysterious. There's so many. Yeah.
I hadn't heard the African magic theory until just now. So
yeah, I hadn't either.
I mean that.
I'm not saying I buy that theory, but I like that theory.
It is a theory.
It is a theory.
Yeah.
Still, yeah.
I mean, if you want to go with the theory, then they could have conjured these things. You know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it could be one of the few theories that makes the most sense.
The thing about the lions of Tsavo, like again, this is a topic I wanted to do for a future episode, but the lions of Tsavo, that area of Tsavo, Kenya, where where the British were building that railroad, that was known as a very particularly, like, let's just say, kind of like the African version of like a Native American burial ground, where the locals would stay away because of bad juju.
Yeah.
Mysterious.
And so there are some people who think that the lions of Tsavo, the reasons why they went on such a killing spree on that end of the world had something to do with that region being cursed land.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And maybe there's a link there.
Could there be something along that lines for Gevaudan too, though? Is there something for that region being some sort of a mystical place?
Good question.
Hmm.
I don't know. Whatever it
No,
was, I
I
mean,
think bringing in the. Go ahead, Brandy.
I was just going to say, whatever it was, it did have a definite particular taste, and it was women and children.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
it was, and it would, like in that one group of kids, it was trying to pick off the weakest, smallest one, which is natural predator.
Yeah.
Oh, another detail I forgot to mention. It was also on numerous occasions, it was reported that it seemed to show zero interest in livestock.
Yeah.
Like
now
people were herders, people had livestock, and apparently it wasn't touching them.
and
It was only going after people.
That pretty much defeats any kind of predatory animal we're talking about then.
Right.
Yeah.
It just cuts it all out. Anything that we know is out of that.
Yeah, because they're not going to pass up that cow over there to come after a human.
Yeah.
There's just that
Right.
natural fear,
Yeah.
It just makes no sense now. But now we're really diving into what's the darker side of it now.
Right.
Right.
This African magic is sounding better and better.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Or it's making more and more sense. I should say that instead.
Did somebody unleash this? Not just one, but multiples, but unleash this.
And that African voodoo, I mean, if you give credence to like some of the Native American mysticism, that African voodoo is seriously no joke.
Yeah, you don't screw with it.
Some of that stuff is no joke.
Right.
I mean,
yeah, I don't know. I mean, if we were picking animals that we know exist, we've got the dire wolf, we've got the lion. That's right there is the general consensus, because I mean, we can't put them together, unfortunately, but because then we'd have the animal. But it definitely sounds like something that could have been conjured if we're going to go that way with this. I mean, it doesn't look like anything that was recorded in history. It resembles this and it resembles that, but it's not completely this or completely that. So I don't know, guys. I don't know what to do with this story.
Not
So
anymore.
what about what about just straight up hellhounds?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too. Yeah.
Well, hellhounds are okay. So they are bigger. You're right about that. The body size, they are bigger, but they supposedly have black fur, but it's charred, and their eyes are red.
Glowing
They're
red.
red. So, I mean, you would notice the charred, fur and things like that. I mean, I would think that would be mentioned, in a report or two, or whoever was telling the stories. I mean, it would be mentioned, but
yeah,
that doesn't mean that something else wasn't released. You know what I mean?
Question on the hellhounds though, but aren't the hellhounds more like harbingers of death? Not just go out and pick off, the weakest of the bunch. They're a harbinger of death for one coming, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
I think they had many roles, but I mean, most of it was just to stand at the gates.
Yeah.
It's to protect the gates, make sure nothing gets in and nothing gets out. That's what their job was.
Well, and T-Bone brings up a good point.
Just read that.
Yeah.
There you go.
So-
The French at the time had African slaves who might have been responsible. That's what we're getting at, T-Bone. Good point.
Yeah.
I mean, because who knows what type of things they had released.
And you can't ignore the correlation, right? Because the only other time in history where we know of something similar-ish happening, Lions of Savo, happening in a paranormal hotspot in Kenya,
right?
Where magic practitioners would be like, "Yo, stay away from that place. That place is bad." And the two lions that happen to call that place home go on a killing spree very similar to the beasts of Gevaudan.
Right.
where it's actively just targeting people.
Seeking out
Yeah.
humans. Yeah.
Yeah.
And how did think about it? How did they attack them?
The
a
ones
lot
in
of times
Africa?
they stuck their head in the tent. They stuck their head in the tent,
Yep.
snatched them
Drag
up
them
by
right
the head
out.
and drug them out.
Yep.
True. Very true. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, this, you kind of
Very
think you have to
interesting.
figure it out at the beginning, and then you figure out at the end of these stories you don't.
Yeah.
It's kind of like,
Well,
the
the possibilities are endless. I mean, honestly,
right,
especially when you throw the paranormal aspect into it, all bets are off.
Right.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Because
Because you're
we
trying
could
to
be
explain
talking
an
about
animal.
we could be talking about at least a version of a werewolf here, or a werecat, as far as that goes.
Or like the African
Exactly.
version.
Yeah, possibly.
Got
I
a
mean, because
I don't know.
like I said, this animal, every way they depict it resembles many different animals in one.
Right. Now, here's one of the points I made earlier previously, but it's something worth considering. When you think of all the crazy wildlife that this, North America has to offer, or a place like Europe, right? Like, okay, so we're in these cryptid talk shows. We like to talk about Bigfoot and Dogman going out into woods, and people, invariably will bring up like wolves and mountain lions, and think of all the craziest animals there are in this country. Whatever crazy animal we got, Africa's just got the crazier version of it, right? Oh, we've got wolves, we've got mountain lions, they've got lions.
Oh, they got lions.
We got rattlesnakes. Well, over there in Africa, they got black mambas. I'm sorry, but black mambas are way more terrifying than rattlesnakes.
Anacondas. Yeah, they've got the big ones. Yeah.
Whatever we got over here, Africa's just got the crazier version. So who's to say something like a Bigfoot or Dogman? What if Africa's got an even crazier version?
Well, I say that about Australia too. So I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Well, there was the account that I'm aware of that took place in South Africa, and it was a Dogman lab where they had several of these beasts in the lab. They got out, and before they neutralized them, they killed an entire village.
Oh yeah, I remember you telling me about that.
So that aspect of that creature over there, why are you going to do it over in South Africa when there's got to be something over there that they're playing with? So maybe they found a creature over there. I don't know. I mean, like I said, when you start throwing all these curveballs into the mix, all bets are off.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, because we don't have any. We don't have anything positive. Like if they drew a picture of a lion, we like, hey, that's a lion, or that's a dire wolf, but this, like I said, this thing looks like something that, I'm sorry, but something that was conjured. I'm sorry. It looks like something demonic. I'm just saying. And then for it to feed only on specific things.
Yeah, to target.
Yeah, like I mean, I didn't read anywhere what particular organs that it went after. I think I know it was the heart, but I didn't know what else.
Hearts, livers, and
again,
heads.
That kind of screams some dark magic right there. So I don't know. I don't know, guys.
Tennessee.
Yeah, dog soldiers. You dang right.
Well, I don't know, guys. I think we've talked this one out, and we'll have to sit around and think about it.
We shall.
I'll probably message you guys at like 2:30 in the morning, going, "Hey, guess what I thought of?"
And we definitely, I still feel like we definitely at one point we do need to discuss the Lions of Savo.
Oh yeah.
Like with the beasts of Gevaudan, in my opinion, with regards to all these cryptid Dogman, Bigfoot encounters and stuff. Of all the cryptid stories, in my opinion, I think the Beast of Gevaudan may be the most important.
I think so too. Because you can't explain it.
Yeah.
They're
Because of the
And
unknown.
its impact on history, its impact on an entire society, the fact that everyone just disclosure, like everyone just knew it was real. No one
Yeah.
questioned
Right.
it.
exactly.
When else in history has that ever happened?
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
ever. Not
If you people
ever.
want to know what full disclosure with Bigfoot or Dogman would look like, look at the Beast of Gevaudan story. That's what it would look like.
Right.
If everyone in America all of a sudden woke up one day and found out that Dogman or Bigfoot was real, this is what it would look like. You would have all these random hunters showing up in our national forests, armed to the
Yes.
teeth, looking for these things.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So anyway. All right. So who wants to take us out? Paul, you want to do it?
Good show, everybody. Thanks to where am I at here? T-Bone for the 5 membership.
The 5 new booze.
Five
thanks,
new
T-Bone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How fitting, T-Bone. And tonight we're talking about dogs.
Hey,
Dog's got to get his bone.
The-
now I want a big old T-bone steak.
oh, that does sound good.
Yes, it does.
I'm like, oh, that does now sound good.
I'd rather have a fillet though.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's just talk about what we've got going on.
Yep.
Okay, so
what do you got?
of course,
What do you got tomorrow night, Brandi?
well, we have Haunted Souls and Haunted Garage going to be on the show tomorrow night. We're going to be talking about a new location that they're having opening up for paranormal investigations and a little other haunted items. So it's going to be a lot of fun tomorrow night.
Mm-hmm.
And then on Friday, I don't know. Our discussion is up in the air right now, but I'm sure it'll be something good.
Yeah. If you you guys are going to the to Marthasville, aren't you?
Oh,
Friday night?
that's right. That's right. We are. So I'm sorry. Everybody, while I'm sitting here, there will not be a show Thursday or Friday night. Friday. Thursday night, yes. Friday night, no.
Right.
I forgot all about that.
Right.
I keep thinking we're going on Saturday, not Friday.
What's
It's not
going
my
on
normal.
Friday?
It's not. What's up?
What's going on
We're
Friday?
not having a show Friday. No show Friday. Mm-mm.
Why not?
Because we're going to take the night off.
Mm.
So
they're
anyway,
going
but on
ghost hunting.
Saturday,
I'm going to try something new, and all day today, outside of researching this a little bit, I've been coming up with paranormal trivia questions, and we're going to do like a paranormal trivia night Saturday night on paranormal.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Yeah.
Okay, make sure you tune in to Paranormal Among Us, Paranormal Paul. That it's at 7 o'clock Saturday night. 8:30, Donnie Cho Says Stuff comes on. What you doing, Donnie?
8:30 Central, 9:30 p.m. Eastern, Saturday nights. Guys, don't watch my show. It's too much craziness. It's not for everybody. It's if you've got sensitive minds or just don't watch it, guys. You're not ready for it. You're not ready for it.
Every time I watch him.
No, you're not ready. Just don't watch.
Yeah.
Go away.
There
I know
you
where
go.
me and Randy will be.
Yep.
Right. Right.
There's too much craziness on my show. Too much crazy. It's too off. It's too bonkers. Just guys, don't watch. I don't recommend it.
There you go.
Randy, Pops, and Monica and Jason will be at an undisclosed location conducting a dog investigation.
Ooh.
See, there you go. There you go.
Hopefully, it'll be back in time for the show on Sunday.
Just make sure you get back in one piece, please.
If not, I'm calling Paul and Donnie, and we're taking over.
Okay.
Yeah.
We will. It will be me. It will be me, Pops, Monica, and Randy. Friday night, Saturday night, and then everybody's leaving Monday or Sunday, and then I'll be out there by myself. Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday.
Make sure you have plenty of video.
Exactly.
Yeah, be sure to film stuff for content.
We
In
need
case you don't
B-roll.
come back in one piece.
Yeah,
You have
Right.
proof.
Exactly.
content.
All right. Well, everybody, let's say goodnight. And we don't know
Well,
what's happening on the show with
Pops will be staying with me, so it will be me and Pops all week. So.
Okay. So
They'll need to lean on each other to get out of there anyway.
yeah. So we're gonna wait to find out if Randy makes it back for Truth or Tinfoil Sunday evening at 5 p.m. Central. If not, it's gonna be something. Just gonna say it's gonna be something. I'm gonna get a hold of Paul and Donnie, and we're gonna do something.
Let me stay out just so I can see what happens.
Right. All right,
Well,
everybody.
depending on connection, we may be going live from the field.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
You can probably do that Friday night if you got good connection.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll look at it for sure.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. Goodbye. We'll see you next week, Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Central. Goodbye, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
I'm hitting the button. Ready? Button's about to be pressed. Wait, where's the button? Okay, here we go.
Hit the button.
Big red one. Big red one.